Hey there, this is Pat Ennis of Ennis Legacy Partners. Welcome to the Exit Readiness podcast. Our mission here on the podcast is to provide you, the business owner, with subject matter expertise on topics pertaining to building transferable or sellable business value and for planning your eventual exit from the business. We want to help you build a business that is transferable and then help you to know how to exit successfully. Some owners we work with are doing something to obtain customer feedback on their services and products. But there are many who do not do it. For those who do, they're typically using some kind of survey. Maybe it's Net Promoter Score, maybe it's something else, or some sort of listening on social media. But it's inconsistent in regard to how they prioritize it. And clearly what our customers think of us can impact revenue, profitability, and hence it also impacts business value, which then impacts how successful your exit's going to be. And so our topic today is customer feedback, its impact on exit value. And our guest today is Eli Portnoy. Eli is a serial entrepreneur and experienced founder who's built and sold multiple successful tech companies. He's currently the founder and CEO of BackEngine.ai, an AI-driven platform helping companies improve customer retention and growth. Previously, Eli founded Sense 360, a consumer insights platform acquired by Medallia for $44 million, and ThinkNear, a location-based advertising startup acquired by Telenav for $22.5. He also serves as executive fellow at Harvard Business School, he's there sharing real life experience as an entrepreneur with the MBA students there at Harvard. Eli, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Good. And I'm sure that, we're going to have you back in the future to talk about some other topics pertaining to exit, and particularly selling tech companies successfully, because you've got a track record of doing that. But today we're interested in your take on why you think customer feedback is so critical for building value, especially since you've successfully sold businesses and you consider it a priority, customer feedback. And sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. That's our experience with owners that we work with. They're kind of all over the map in regard to how they prioritize it or don't. And so we thought a conversation about this topic would be very helpful, particularly in light of our mission, which is to help owners build value for exit. So let's start there, Eli. Why do you think, what's your convictions about customer feedback as it pertains to building sellable business value?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I appreciate you guys having me on. A lot of people ask me about what it takes to sell a business. And there's a lot of really, really important steps that a business has to go through in order to be sold. And I have a lot of thoughts on that. But there's one fundamental truth that I think everyone agrees on, which is in order to sell a business, you need to build a great business, a business that someone else wants to buy. And the most direct path that I know to building a great business is to build a business that serves customers and delivers exceptional value. If you can do that, all of the other things tend to work themselves out. If you build the right product, if you build the right experience, if you put the right pricing in place, if you do the things that ultimately lead to customers getting value from your business, you will build a great business. And then it's much, much easier to eventually sell it. And the most direct way I know to be able to actually deliver that experience and build that experience is to listen to customers, is to understand what do they value, what do they not value, what's working, what's not working. It all comes down to that same fundamental truth. If you hear your customers, you're able to build for your customers, which means you're going to deliver value, which means that they will ultimately buy from you often, which will lead you to a place where you can sell a business. And so that's why I start every business thinking about who is my customer and how do I make sure I listen to them really, really well, because it leads to all the good things that happen from there.
Yeah. Okay. So then, that's an important point. I think you have that posture right out the gate as you're starting a business. I mean, and what does that look like? I mean, are you getting feedback, customer feedback before you even have customers? And then how does that continue?
Oh, yeah, no, it's an ongoing journey from the very, very moment I start thinking about starting a company. I mean, my for a lot of people think, at least in technology, and I'm going to relate this back to tech companies, but I think it's widely applicable. A lot of people think that an idea comes to someone in a shower as a light bulb moment, and then the entire business is just laid out for them in this grand vision, and then they just go and execute on it. And in my experience, that's never the case. It typically starts with a bad idea that takes some time to formulate, and the process is to take that bad idea and refine it over time with lots and lots of customer feedback. So every one of my businesses, I had some idea that I got very excited about. And the first thing I did was I started talking to people. I started talking to friends and family. And then I went beyond that and beyond that. And every single conversation, I got feedback about what was potentially good about the idea and all of the things that were bad. And then it's just a constant refinement process until you get to something that you feel is like validated enough, or at least I felt was validated enough that it was worth trying to build. And then I start to build it, and I'm talking to customers or prospects at that point along the way, trying to figure out, like, am I building it the right way? Am I thinking about it the right way? How do I price it? How am I going to take this to market? And then we finally have the thing built, and I go to those potential prospects and I say, do you want to be customers? And I start getting feedback about the go-to-market strategy and the positioning and the sales. And then we finally put it out. We finally get the first few customers. And then I talk to those customers every single day, just trying to understand, what are they telling me? Why are they using it this way? What are they trying to do with it? What do I need to prioritize and build? And it's just this constant evolution, and it doesn't stop. It just never, ever, ever stops.
Eli, it sounds like then it's as much a priority for you as, you know, generating revenue, sales, as product delivery, or anything else that an owner has to think about in regard to building, about hiring the right people, getting the right people in the bus right roles. Uh, it sounds like it's as much top of mind as any of those other efforts to build value. Would you say that's right?
Yeah, that's definitely right. And I take it a step further and say it's not its own separate function. It's something that I weave into every one of those pieces. So when I'm thinking about sales, I am not just basically articulating how I want to talk about the product in a vacuum. I am talking to customers and showing them iterations of the deck and iterations of the pitch, and going through that process with them and tweaking it along the way until it feels right. And it never, ever feels right. So it's a constant process. Same thing with marketing, same thing with every part of the business. It's just, I, you know, I think a lot about, one of the big questions I have for myself is, why do startups consistently win? It doesn't make any sense. Like, you're talking about businesses that are tiny with a few people, with no distribution, with no money, going up against massive, massive, massive institutions that have tremendous brand recognition and huge resources and amazing teams and people who really care. And yet these tiny Davids keep beating out the Goliaths. And I ask myself, why is that? And I think it comes down to a superpower that founders have. And that superpower is that they are able to basically be the person that talks to customers, hears customer feedback, and then directly brings that back to the rest of the organization. And because there's such a small team and the founder is the same person who's talking to customers and is defining the product roadmap and is defining the sales strategies, defining all these things, that voice of the customer, that feedback is being interwoven into every part of that process. And that's a real superpower. And the problem is that as startups start getting bigger and they bring on more customers and they bring on more people and more teams and customer success managers and salespeople, all of a sudden they start losing that superpower. They start getting disconnected from the customers. And that's why the cycle then repeats again. And a new startup is able to come in and beat them. And so my learning from all of this is that if you want to keep growing and you want to keep like winning as a big company, you have to figure out how are you going to still keep that founder superpower and make sure that the entire organization is still listening to customers. That's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah. Okay. So that's obviously a very important point because as I started out my comments today, we don't see we see some owners focused on this and but many not focused on it. And even the ones that are focused on it aren't to the level that you are in regard to the intentionality, I don't think. And maybe it's because they don't understand what can what it can produce and the impact that it has. And so they don't they we don't see this happening a lot with owners. Why do you think that is? Is it solely what you just mentioned in regard to the disconnect that happens with growth, or are there other reasons too that owners might not? What have you observed about owners and why they don't do this?
Well, I think it's a few things. I think the distance matters. So as the business gets bigger, there's just more distance between them and the customers, and it's a very natural progression to go from there's no one else on the team. If anyone is going to sell, it's going to be me. To okay, now I actually have a salesperson. Now I actually have a like an account manager. Now I'm a little bit more removed, and it's very natural. And there's a gravitational pull that makes that critical. Uh, I think the second thing is every business I've been in is just a series of fires that constantly need to be put out. And those fires always feel urgent, whereas getting feedback from customers feels important but not urgent. And so I think it gets deprioritized a lot. And then the third thing is it's very time consuming. It's hard. It's not easy. It means having lots and lots of conversations with customers. It means spending time listening. It means setting up processes to capture this feedback. It means making sure that you're hiring people who care about it. And it's just it most most people don't make the investment required to do this well. And as a result, the business does fine, but they miss an opportunity, a really, really big opportunity. And that's been my learning across the businesses that I've started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you've got a solution that we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes to help owners to remain focused and maybe even and further intensify their efforts in this. Before we talk about the solution, though, is there anything else you would add to what you've said already in regard to the impact on the value, how your personal experience as to if you hadn't have done this, would you have realized the value? Probably not, that you did in regards to sale of each of the businesses that you've sold to this point. Anything else that you would say about the impact on value that this intentionality?
Yeah, I think there's another philosophical principle that is very related that I very much hold by, which is not just the feedback you get from customers, but the approach you take to customers. So, at my companies, we have a very, very like core tenet that we talk about all of the time, which is that we are building 20 plus year relationships with our customers. We are intentionally thinking about the relationships as lasting 20 years. And the reason we talk about it that way is because I went I went on a cruise ship with my family not that long ago. And what I observed was that a 7 day cruise and people knowing that they're probably never going to see anyone again after those 7 days leads to a very, very different set of behaviors than what you typically see with a neighbor. With a neighbor, you know you're stuck with them. They're going to be your neighbor for a very, very long time, and you're going to interact with them in a very different way. Whereas in a cruise ship, it just doesn't really matter because you're not going to see them. I want to make sure that we are creating relationships where we are thinking about the long term. We are going to see them. We are going to have lots of ups and downs in the relationship. And we want to be creating um, sort of like relationship capital where we're not focused on value extraction. We're focused on value delivery. We're focused on what they need because we know that if we're going to see them for a really long time, we want to be building that kind of relationship. And I try to ingrain that across the team, and it changes how we interact with those customers. And I think it's not directly tied to feedback, but it is in that if I'm trying to make sure that these people are my customers and we have a partnership for 20 years, then it means I'm going to really care about what they're telling me. It's not a transaction where I just need to get the contract signed and move on to the next one. It's I need to get the contract signed, but I want to make sure I understand what they're really trying to achieve and really help them achieve that. And the only way I can do that is by listening to them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Yeah, and of course, the longer the relationships with the customers, the more reoccurring revenue that happens. That of course increases the value of the business. Okay, so let's start helping. One of the things we like to do here is give some practical advice on. Let's say a listener is, what this makes sense to me, but yeah, I haven't prioritized it. It hasn't been as important to me. It needs to be. Maybe I'm disconnected. What are 3 steps? What are 3 things I can do to change my situation and make this more of a priority?
I would say there are 3 very simple things that an owner should do. The first is make someone an owner of the customer feedback. Just it can be the owner itself, it could be someone they designate, but someone needs to own it. And the reason someone needs to own it is because something that doesn't have an owner is not going to get done. It's not going to get prioritized. It's not going to get thought about. So even just by appointing an owner or saying I am the owner means that someone is accountable for it. That's the first thing I would do. And that alone, as simple as that sounds, will make a very big difference. The second thing I would say is no matter how busy things get, just prioritize to have at least one customer call every week. Just make it one customer call. Make sure that as an owner, you are talking to your customer with no agenda, but just talking to them and hearing them and not pitching them, not selling them, but just listening to them once a week. That will change everything. And then the last thing is just make the customer matter, like celebrate it. If there's a win, celebrate it with the team. If there's an issue, surface it to the team. Like bring in the rest of the team to be owners in this idea of customer feedback. If you do those 3 things, I think everything else will sort of like start snowballing into a bigger, more important part of the organization. But yeah, those are the 3 practical steps I would start with.
Excellent. Okay, so as we wrap up, I'm going to ask you in a second to provide contact information if you'd like to do that, and then if there's anything that you want to promote today. But leading into that, BackEngine.ai is the focus of BackEngine.ai. The mission to help owners. Is it a platform? Is it a tool? Is it a service? Is it AI? What is it? And is it helping with this, what we've been talking about today?
Yeah, absolutely. So the basic idea on BackEngine is it's an automated way to systematically capture customer feedback and make sure the entire organization sees it. So we connect to the different tools that a company uses to talk to customers. So think like phone calls, emails, support tickets. We connect to them, and then we use large language models or AI to analyze all of the things that customers are saying to the business, and then we synthesize it and we route it to the right people. So it's basically a very, very easy way to do the things that I've been manually doing and having my companies do manually that have been so incredibly valuable for us. It's a way to turn a button on and have it happen for you automatically and systematically.
All right, fantastic. And is there anything else that you'd say that is there a question I should have asked you today that I didn't? Is any last words of wisdom that you'd have for listeners?
No, I just would say that we live in such an exciting time in human history where entrepreneurship is so alive and so feasible and so possible. And there's so many resources and tools, and just there's nothing greater than being a business owner. And I'm just so excited to get a chance to speak to you, and very excited for all of your listeners who are on that journey. It's just a very cool moment in time.
Great. Thank you, Eli, so much. And listeners, let's do it. Let's find out what our customers are thinking about us. Let's take initiative. Let's make that one call a week and take those other 2 steps that Eli has suggested here today. Eli, if listeners want to contact you directly, how can they do that?
Yeah, they can always email me. It's eli@backengine.ai. They can connect on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/Eli Portnoy. And they can reach out to us on our website, backengine.ai.
And is there anything you want to promote today?
No, just trying to share the lessons I've learned, especially around customer feedback, and just excited to get a chance to chat with you.
That's terrific. Thanks so much. We really, really appreciate it. And listeners, if you need help in maximizing the value of your business or planning your eventual exit, if you don't know what you want to do in regard to exit, a typical client for us, new client, is someone they know they want to exit. They just don't know if they want to sell to a third party or transfer to their kids, do an ESOP, sell to insiders. They don't know, and they need someone to help them figure it out, then put a plan in place. We can help you with that. Contact us through our website, nslp.com, or at email at nslp.com. Thank you for listening. And as always, if you've benefited from this episode, please consider liking it and sharing it on social media. We would be very grateful for that. Until next time, this is on the Exit Readiness Podcast. This is Pat Ennis signing off without co-host Walter Dial today, but I'm sure he'll be back for the next episode. Thank you very much.